Hello, everyone. I'm Mr.Graveveil. I want to tell you a horror story. Turn off the lights, put on your headphones, and get ready for a story you've never heard before. I wasn't planning a big party. Just a few people over some coworkers, a couple of neighbors, and a friend from college. Friday night, end of the month. We all needed a break. My apartment isn't huge, but it's cozy enough. I bought drinks, cleaned the place, turned off the overhead lights, and left a few warm lamps on. That kind of lighting where everything feels soft, comfortable. People started arriving around 9. Music low, conversations louder. Nothing got out of hand. No broken bottles. No spilled drinks. Everyone was polite, casual, easygoing. Around 10, Adam, one of my coworkers, showed up with someone else. "This is Nate," he said, patting the guy's shoulder. "Cool guy. Met him at trivia night." Nate nodded, smiling just enough. Hoodie zipped up, sleeves covering his wrists even though it was warm inside. He brought a six-pack and said, "Hope you don't mind." Of course I didn't. More drinks meant less leftovers for me. I pointed him to the fridge, and that was that. But something about him felt still, like everyone else was moving, laughing, shifting around, and he was just there, observing, smiling when appropriate, laughing at jokes that weren't his. He stuck close to the wall, but his eyes scanned everything, not in a curious way, more like he was logging details. At one point, I walked past him and he said, "You changed the layout from the photos online." I paused. "What?" "The rental listing. This used to be an Airbnb, right?" He wasn't wrong. I moved in 4 months ago. The old listing was probably still floating somewhere on Zillow or a short-term site. But it still made my stomach turn a little that he'd seen it. "Yeah," I said, forcing a smile. "Good memory." He just nodded. Later, I caught him refilling cups for people without asking. He knew where the bottle opener was without being told. He adjusted the music volume like it was his house. It was small stuff, easy to overlook. But something about it didn't sit right. The party kept going, people laughing. Someone spilled a drink on the rug. I cleaned it up, pretending everything was fine. But the entire time, I kept glancing at Nate. He never took off his jacket. By 1:30 a.m., the apartment had emptied out. The last 2 guests waved goodbye, and I closed the door behind them with that familiar mix of relief and exhaustion. Hosting always drained me, even when it went well. I turned around and saw Nate still sitting on the edge of the couch. He didn't look tired. He didn't even glance toward the door. "Great crowd," he said, as if I'd asked. "Yeah," I replied. "Glad you came? Need me to call you a ride?" "Nah," he said, already pulling out his phone. "I'll grab an Uber in a sec." But he didn't. I went into the kitchen to start cleaning. When I came back, he was still there. Same position, his jacket still on. Just watching the TV, which I'd turned off hours ago. "You good?" I asked. He nodded, just letting the night wind down. I didn't know how to respond to that, so I just kept picking up cans, stacking plates, tossing napkins. He didn't move. Eventually, I stopped and stood in the doorway. "You sure you don't want me to call someone for you?" He smiled. "No need. I'm where I need to be." Something about that line made my skin crawl. He stood up, walked slowly over to the speaker on the shelf, and adjusted the volume. A soft ambient track came on, not from my playlist. Something he must have cued. Then he went to the fridge and pulled out a can without asking. Cracked it open, sat back down, like he lived there. I tried to play it cool, but my hands were shaking slightly as I wiped the counter. He made a joke about the party being over, but the vibe just starting. "I'm not really big on after-parties," I said, trying to laugh. He leaned forward, elbows on knees. "Yeah, But this is the part where people actually talk. I nodded slowly, trying to think. I had no idea how to escalate this without making things worse. Then I noticed it. The door. He had locked it. I didn't remember locking it after the last guest left, and I always leave it unlocked when cleaning up habit, just in case someone forgot something and comes back. The deadbolt was turned. I tried to keep my voice steady. "Did you lock the door?" Nate looked up calmly. "Of course. Gotta keep the host safe, right?" I didn't respond right away. My throat was dry. My heart louder than the ambient music still pulsing softly from the speaker. Nate just sat there, sipping his drink like nothing was wrong. Like locking someone inside their own apartment was normal, protective even. I moved toward the door slowly, casually, like I was just stretching. When I reached for the lock, I felt his eyes on me. "You don't trust me?" he asked. The words were soft, not accusatory, just still, flat. I froze for a second, then forced a chuckle. "No, man, just a habit. I usually leave it unlocked while I clean up." Nate nodded. "Not safe, not in this city." He stood up again, walked past me into the kitchen, opened drawers, closed them, like he was looking for something, but not in a hurry. "Bathroom?" he asked. I pointed, and he walked down the hall. I used those seconds to grab my phone from the counter. It was off, not locked off. I never turned it off. I checked the battery, still full. When I pressed the power button, nothing happened, like it had been dead for hours. I put it down just as I heard the bathroom door creak open. Nate walked out, but didn't return to the couch. He leaned in the hallway, looking at the photos on the wall. "You were thinner here," he said, pointing at one. "That was years ago." He smiled. "Yeah, but time's strange, isn't it? We forget how fast things change, or how fast they come back." He said it so casually, I almost didn't catch it. I moved toward the hallway, pretending to be tired. "Hey, it's getting late." Nate turned slowly. "Yeah, I thought so too." Then he stepped back into the living room, but didn't sit. He just stood, staring at the space where the party had been hours ago. "There's something about this apartment," he said. "It's got a good rhythm, like it remembers things." I didn't know what to say. I felt small in my own home. Everything familiar now felt borrowed, used. I turned off the music. Silence, then a quiet click. I looked over. Nate had picked up my phone from the counter and placed it on the table. The screen lit up, powering on. He smiled again. "See? Just needed a reset." I needed him out. My mind was racing, calculating what I could say, how I could move without sounding alarmed. But Nate didn't seem in a hurry. He sat again, took another sip, and stared at the blank TV screen like it was playing something only he could see. I grabbed my stomach and winced. "You okay?" he asked. "I think something hit wrong," I said. "Might have been the rum or the chips. My stomach's off." He watched me closely, then nodded slowly. "Yeah, could have been." I stood up, hand still on my side. "I might need to lie down. Or sorry, just some space." He didn't move for a moment. Then, with unsettling calm, he stood and walked to the door. He unlocked it, opened it. But he didn't leave. He stood in the hallway, half in the light, half in shadow, just looking at me. "You should rest, Dylan," he said. "You did a great job tonight." Then he turned and walked down the hall. I didn't breathe until I heard the stairwell door click shut. I locked the door. Deadbolt, chain, everything. I stayed awake the rest of the night, lights on, sitting on the floor with a knife in my hand and a chair braced against the doorknob. Every creak in the hallway outside made my chest seize. The next morning, nothing was out of place, except it was. The speaker was unplugged. The photo he pointed at had been taken off the wall and left on the coffee table. And the bottle opener, the one Nate used without asking, was gone. A week passed. I didn't talk about it. Didn't tell Adam. Just moved on. Or tried to. But then, last night, as I was heading to bed, my phone buzzed. A notification. You've been invited to Nate's after party. The only name on the participant list was mine. And the group description said, the host should never leave before the guest. I hadn't thought about my high school in years. Not really. Life moved on, jobs, apartments, bills. Then one Thursday night, around 11:40 p.m., I got a notification. You've been added to Senior Year Legends, Class of 2010. I stared at the screen. A dozen names. Most I hadn't seen since graduation. I scrolled up. Memes, old yearbook photos, jokes about teachers we hated. It was oddly comforting, like walking into a room where everyone still remembered your inside jokes. At first, it was harmless. Amanda shared a photo of that trip to Six Flags. Derek posted the prom video, grainy and loud. The group was alive. We laughed, reacted, typed fast like it was 2010 again. Then the first deleted message popped up. Message deleted. It was 2:17 a.m. No one said anything. I assumed someone drunk texted and thought better of it. But then it happened again and again. Always after midnight. Always just one. The group had 14 people. But when I checked again Friday night, there were 15. One of the contacts just said, +1, 404. No name, no photo. Hey, does anyone know who this 404 guy is? I asked. No reply. Just one of those weird WhatsApp moments where it says someone is typing and then it stops. Typing, then gone. The next night, I was up late again, insomnia, scrolling and saw a message flash. You remember what you did, right? I blinked, but it was gone. Message deleted. I screenshot the chat. Sent a private message to Derek. Do you know who's sending this stuff? He replied, what stuff? I only check that group like once a week, so I checked again. Now the deleted message didn't even show a timestamp, just blank space. The name above it, Logan, my name. I hadn't typed anything. The group started to change after that night, slowly, quietly. What used to be lighthearted became hollow. Some people stopped replying altogether. The ones who stayed started double-checking before posting anything, as if they were afraid to trigger something or someone. Then came the photos, old ones from high school, not shared ones, personal ones, stuff no one should still have. One was taken during detention, from an angle that looked like it was snapped through a window. Everyone joked at first, who's got the FBI archive? But no one admitted posting it. Then an audio message came through, just static at first, then breathing. Slow, heavy, deliberate. It played for 9 seconds, then disappeared. Someone typed, WTF was that? Message deleted. Every night after midnight, the same pattern. A message, a photo, or a sound. Then it vanishes. And every time, the unknown number was online. I sent a private message to Amanda. Is it just me, or is this group getting weird? She replied, I muted it days ago. Too many messages. So I checked again. Now there were 16 people in the group. 16. I clicked through the contact list. Same names. But now, some had been renamed. Mine wasn't Logan anymore. It said, do you remember? In all caps. I tried to change it. Couldn't. That night, I woke up to a notification sound. 3:11 a.m. I hadn't turned off my phone. Big mistake. The group had a new photo. It wasn't the class picture anymore. It was a shot of my apartment door, taken from the hallway. Same doormat. Same light bulb flickering in the top corner. No caption. No joke. Just the photo. I stared at it for what felt like a full minute before leaving the group. I didn't sleep at all. In the morning, I deleted the app. I thought that would be the end of it. But 2 days later, I got a text from a different number. "Why'd you leave, Logan?" I didn't reply to the text. I blocked the number, reset the phone, factory settings. I even switched carriers the following week. That should have been the end of it. But 4 nights later, I got another notification, this time through a different messaging app I hadn't used in months. "You've been added to a new group. No name, no description. Just a list of participants." There were 16 of us again, and my name was still set as "Do you remember?" The first message was a photo, a yearbook page, but someone had scribbled over it in red marker, circles, X's, one face left untouched. A guy named Eli. I hadn't thought about Eli in years. He'd been in our class, sure, but he wasn't part of the core group. Quiet kid, always just behind the group in photos, always on the edge of the conversation. Then one day, he just stopped showing up. Rumors spread. Some said he moved, others said he dropped out. There was even a rumor he tried something dark, but nobody really knew, and no one really asked. Until now. Another message came through. "You left me out." Then a photo of a desk. Not just any desk, my desk in my apartment. The scratch on the side, the chipped paint near the bottom drawer. No caption. I stood up, heart racing. Checked the locks. Windows. Nothing. I hadn't let anyone in. I hadn't posted that desk anywhere. How? The group kept sending images from my apartment, my hallway, even my building's front gate, time-stamped from just hours ago. One video showed someone walking down the hallway toward my door, pausing before turning the camera off. I left the group again. The next day, I tried to find Eli online. No profiles. No mention. Not even on alumni sites. I called Derek. "Hey," I said, "do you remember Eli?" Silence. Then, "Don't say that name." "What?" "Why?" A pause. "We made a pact, Logan. We weren't supposed to." Click. He hung up. I stared at my phone, pulse in my ears. I hadn't remembered any pact. I barely remembered Eli. But apparently, someone did. I deleted every app, blocked every number I didn't recognize, changed my locks, installed a camera at the door. I even moved my bed away from the windows. I wasn't thinking clearly. I was just trying to breathe again. For a while, it was quiet. No texts, no group invites, just the dull hum of paranoia that never fully left. Then one night, around 2 a.m., my TV turned on by itself. The screen flickered to life. No input, no sound. Just a slideshow. Photos. From the group chat, my apartment door, my hallway, my desk, my face. Then came a message across the screen, just white text on black. "I've always been here." I ripped the plug from the wall. Blackout. The next morning, the camera app showed motion detected at 2:03 a.m. a shape in the hallway. No face, just watching. I didn't know what to do. Cops wouldn't help. What would I even say? Someone I knew in high school is haunting my group chats? I threw the phone in a drawer and went fully offline. No apps, no Wi-Fi, no notifications. I bought a burner phone just to be reachable by family. But a week later, I woke up to a vibration near my bed. It wasn't my burner. It was the old phone. Turned off, dead battery, in the drawer. Except now it was glowing. One notification. "You never really blocked me, Logan." I started going to the gym 3 months after my last breakup. It wasn't really about getting fit. It was just something to do at night. I didn't want to be bothered by anyone. 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 I didn't want to be that didn't involve thinking too much. The gym was quiet after 9 p.m., mostly regulars, headphones in, avoiding eye contact. That's where I first noticed Tyler. He wasn't loud or flashy, just consistent. Same black shirt, same focused look. He offered me a spot once during a bench press, then casually corrected my form a week later. At first, it felt helpful. He knew what he was doing. So when he suggested training together a couple of times a week, I agreed. No pressure. No weird vibe. Just two guys trying to stay on track. It felt good. He pushed me harder than I'd push myself, and in return, I started showing up more often. He'd be there waiting sometimes, already warmed up. We weren't friends exactly, but there was a rhythm to it. Tyler would say things like, "I know your limits better than you do," in this half-smile way that felt like encouragement. Until it didn't. One night, I showed up a bit late. Work had been hell, and I was just dragging myself in. Tyler was already on the leg press, waiting. He didn't say hi, didn't nod, just stared at me and said, "You always come in around this time, Chris, even when you're pissed." I paused. I hadn't mentioned work, and I hadn't told him I was running late. Later, during our cool-down, he casually dropped something about a podcast I'd listened to earlier that week, one I hadn't shared or mentioned. "That host's voice is weirdly calming," he said, smirking. "But the last episode got dark fast." I remember laughing it off, but my stomach tightened a little. I had listened to that podcast alone during a late-night walk. I told myself it was a coincidence. Maybe he just liked the same stuff, but something felt off, like the temperature in the room had dropped a few degrees, and no one else seemed to notice. That night, I started locking my phone with a passcode. A few days after that weird podcast moment, Tyler asked if I wanted to train outside the gym that weekend. He said the gym was going to be too crowded, too noisy. "I've got a space," he said. "A quiet place where we can really focus." I hesitated. I didn't know much about him outside our workout routine, but he was persistent. Said it was just a private studio he rented occasionally for solo training. He even offered to pick me up. Saturday night, I got into his car. The passenger seat smelled faintly like rubber and sweat. He drove us out past the city line, beyond where the streetlights fade and the roads start feeling empty. I kept checking my phone's signal. 2 bars, then 1. The place was tucked behind an old industrial strip, almost invisible from the road. No signs, no windows. Just a corrugated metal building with one flickering light above the door. He unlocked it with a code. The heavy door creaked open. Inside, it was dim. Just a few overhead lights and mirrors on the far wall. The air was thick, not quite musty, but not clean either. Equipment lined the edges, basic stuff, but well used. Tyler locked the door behind us. "Just so we don't get interrupted," he said without looking at me. He started the session like any other. Warm-ups, then sets. But his energy was different. Focused, quiet, no music at first, just the sound of our breathing and the metal clinks of weights. Then, midway through, he turned on a speaker some ambient track, low and repetitive, almost hypnotic. It drowned everything else. As I moved through the sets, I noticed he wasn't really training. He was watching, standing close, correcting things that didn't need correcting. When I stopped to drink water, he stood in front of the only exit. "You're stronger than you think," he said, like a mantra. I laughed nervously. "Yeah, guess we'll see." He didn't laugh back. That's when I realized something wasn't right. My instincts were yelling, but nothing specific had happened yet. Still, I found myself scanning the room, counting exits, checking for anything I could use to defend myself. Just in case. And the worst part? I still wasn't sure if I was overreacting. We moved into heavier sets. Tyler was choosing the exercises now, not asking, just instructing. deadlifts, then Bulgarian split squats, then a bizarre set of paused pull-ups. The rep counts were too high, but I didn't push back. Not yet. Every time I tried to speak, he'd say something like, "Save your breath for the last round." He kept adjusting the weight without asking, spotting me even when I didn't need it. At one point, I caught him watching my reflection in the mirror, completely still, hands behind his back. I faked a chuckle and asked, "You not working out today?" He didn't answer, just said, "I'm here for your progress." I was drenched in sweat, heartbeat too fast. I reached for my phone, part habit, part escape. No signal. When I looked back up, Tyler had turned the lights down. Just the ones over the lifting area remained. The corners of the room faded into shadow. "Helps you focus," he said. I started getting dizzy. It could have been dehydration, or maybe just the air, maybe just the vibe. But I knew I needed to wrap this up. I told him I was done, needed to cool off. He blocked my way. "One more set," he said. "You can't leave incomplete." I looked him in the eyes, and for the first time, there was nothing friendly in them. No banter. Just a blank, waiting stare, like he was studying a reaction he expected. I nodded slowly, went back to the bench and sat. My legs were trembling. I stayed there for a minute, pretending to catch my breath, then muttered something about my shoulder tightness, maybe strain. He watched me closely. "You all right?" "Yeah, just need to stretch it out." He didn't move, didn't blink, just kept watching. That's when I stood and said, "I'm calling it here, for real." A long pause. Then finally, "All right, Chris, you know your body best." But there was something in his voice. Not disappointment, something colder. I grabbed my bag, tried not to run for the door. He didn't unlock it immediately, just stared at the keypad for a few seconds, like he was deciding something. Then click, he opened it. Outside, the air felt different, real, moving, alive. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears as we walked to the car. Tyler didn't speak the whole ride back. No music, no small talk, just silence, thick and heavy like smoke. When he dropped me off, he said, "Next time, come rested." I nodded, shut the door, and stood there as he drove away. There was no way I was ever going back. I didn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that darkened gym, that keypad under his thumb, that split second before the door unlocked. My muscles ached, but it wasn't from the workout. It was something deeper, tightness in the chest, a kind of paranoia that didn't have a clear source. I skipped the gym the next few days, told myself I just needed rest. But on the third night, as I was walking through my apartment complex after grabbing groceries, I saw a familiar figure across the parking lot, just standing there, leaning against a fence, looking in my direction. Tyler. I stopped, blinked, and when I looked again, he was gone. I never told anyone. It felt ridiculous. I even questioned if I'd imagined it, but I started changing my routine. New running paths, new gym, different times. Still, I'd catch glimpses of someone who looked like him, just far enough to create doubt, just close enough to feel real. Then, a week later, I got a text. No number, no name. "You left mid-set. We're not finished." I deleted it immediately, blocked the number, changed my phone, but the message stayed with me. I stopped working out altogether. The idea of another gym, another partner, made my skin crawl. It's been over a year now. I've moved to another city, got a new job, different rhythm. I've even started running again, just solo, early mornings, headphones in, always looking over my shoulder. Last week, while jogging past an old bus stop near my apartment, I saw something spray painted across the shelter wall. "Next time, come rested." The same words he said the night he dropped me off. I didn't stop. I didn't even look back. But the nausea hit halfway down the block, and I had to sit on a curb to keep from passing out. I don't know how he found me, or if he ever really left. And honestly, I try not to think about it too much. But sometimes, when the world gets quiet enough, I swear I can hear that same ambient music, low and rhythmic, playing somewhere in the back of my mind. And I wonder, what if I hadn't faked the shoulder pain? When I moved into my new apartment, Marcus was the first person to offer help. He showed up with coffee, duct tape, and a sarcastic comment about how I always underestimate the number of boxes I own. We'd known each other since college. Not best friends, but close enough to hang out every few weeks, swap apartment keys when someone traveled, and crash on each other's couch once or twice over the years. Dependable, familiar. When we finished unloading the last of the furniture, I handed him a spare key. "In case I lock myself out," I said, "or if there's ever an emergency." He nodded. "You sure?" "Yeah, just don't rob me." He smirked. "I'll keep it professional." The first week in the new place felt good. Still getting used to the creaks of the building, the echo of empty walls, the hum of the refrigerator in the quiet. It was peaceful. Then I started noticing little things. My toothbrush was damp one morning when I hadn't used it yet. A light was on in the living room when I was sure I'd turned everything off the night before. Once I came home to find the bedroom window slightly open. Not wide, just enough to make me hesitate. I lived on the third floor. I never opened it. I told myself I was just tired. Moving is stressful. Memory slips. But it kept happening. Nothing major, just off. A mug I never use was in the sink. The rug near the couch slightly askew. My phone charger moved from one outlet to another. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I was the one forgetting things. Maybe I was more scattered than I realized. Then, one night, I came home late and found the front door. Unlocked? I always lock it. Always. It's muscle memory at this point. I stared at the knob for a full minute before stepping inside. Everything looked normal. But that's what scared me most. I texted Marcus as a joke. "You haven't been sneaking into my apartment to borrow sugar, have you?" He replied 3 seconds later. "Why? Missing anything?" I didn't answer his text. Part of me didn't want to make it real. If I played it off, maybe it was still a joke. A weird one, but harmless. Just Marcus being Marcus. Except things got weirder. The next morning, I couldn't find my keys. I checked the counters, the floor, the bathroom, even the fridge, because I was that desperate. Nothing. Until I opened the closet and found them inside one of my shoes. I never put them there. Ever. Later that week, I noticed the bathroom mirror had been wiped. Not clean, just streaks from someone dragging a hand across it. I hadn't showered yet that day. No steam, no reason for condensation. But the marks were there, fresh. That night, I checked my front door, locked it, tugged on it, double-checked. At 3:12 a.m., I woke up to the sound of something light hitting the floor. I crept into the living room. Nothing, except the rug had been moved again. I stared at it for a long time. Tried to convince myself I'd done it earlier and just forgot. But I hadn't walked in that area since I got home. The next day, I asked Marcus casually, "You ever get that feeling someone's been in your place?" He looked at me like I was overthinking. Like paranoia? No, like small things, off details, like something was moved. He shrugged. "Could be you. Could be your building. Creaks and shifts mess with your head. Could be," I said. Then he added, without looking up from his phone, "Or maybe someone does have a key." I froze. He smirked. "Kidding. Relax." I laughed, but my throat stayed tight. A few nights later, I came home and found a shirt folded neatly on my bed. It was one I'd worn earlier that week, thrown in the laundry basket. Now it was clean, warm, even. My laundry hadn't run. That's when I knew. This wasn't forgetfulness. It wasn't fatigue. Someone was inside, and not just to look around. They were living in the space, testing boundaries, rearranging reality by inches. I changed my password on the smart lock app, installed a deadbolt I hadn't told anyone about, put a piece of clear tape at the top corner of the door frame, barely visible, just enough to tell if it had been opened. I waited. The tape was gone by morning, not torn, not on the floor, just gone, as if someone saw it, understood what it meant, and removed it cleanly. I didn't sleep much after that. I started taking photos of my apartment every morning. Just simple snapshots. The couch cushions, the kitchen counter, my desk. I wasn't even sure what I hoped to catch. Maybe a drawer left open. A picture frame moved. But the photos didn't show anything. Not at first. Then, one night, I came home and paused in the entryway. Something felt. Shifted. The kind of shift you can't prove. Like the air was wrong. I went straight to my bedroom. The closet light was on. I never leave it on. I took a deep breath, opened the door, and found nothing but my clothes, still hanging neatly. But something in the smell was different. Faint detergent I didn't use. Not mine. The next day, I bought a motion-activated camera. Tiny, silent. I hid it on the bookshelf facing the front door. The following night, I went to a friend's house across town and stayed until 2 a.m. just to see. When I got back, everything looked untouched. Door still locked. Windows shut. I checked the footage. For an hour and a half around midnight, nothing. Then, at 1:46 a.m., the video skipped. Just a 1-second blip. Then everything looked the same, but the lighting had shifted slightly. The curtains moved. One of the picture frames was tilted a little more than before. I replayed that second over and over, but there was no sound, just the gap. Like someone had paused time, entered, left, erased their steps. I sat there staring at the screen, adrenaline pounding so hard it made my hands cold. The worst part? I couldn't see the person, just the absence of them. As if whoever it was knew exactly where the camera was placed, exactly how to avoid its eye. Later that week, I came home to find my mail sorted and stacked neatly on the table. I hadn't touched it in days. The key I gave Marcus. I never asked for it back. I didn't want to believe it was Marcus, but no one else had a key. I hadn't given one to the landlord, the super, or even family. Just him. And every time I brought it up lightly, indirectly, he'd brush it off. Joke. Deflect. So I stopped talking and started preparing. I installed a second lock. Not digital. No app. Just a solid, old-school deadbolt with a physical key. One I kept on me at all times. I didn't tell anyone, not even him. That night, I slept better. Until my phone buzzed at 3:21 a.m. motion detected. Front door. I opened the camera app, heart pounding. The hallway was empty. I rewound the footage. At 3:20, someone had stepped up to the door. A hoodie. A shadow. Gloved hands trying the knob. Trying the keypad. Then stopping. Then stillness. They didn't knock. Didn't speak. Just stood there, then walked away. In the morning, I found a slip of paper slid under the door. No envelope, just a square note. 4 words. You shouldn't have changed it. That was 2 weeks ago. I haven't seen Marcus since. He stopped replying to texts. Doesn't show up to our usual bar. It's like he vanished, or like he's waiting. But I still get signs. My toothbrush, once again, was wet before I used it. My calendar had new entries I didn't write. The closet light turned itself back on. I've changed the locks again, moved the furniture, bought a second camera, but nothing makes me feel safer, because I don't know if he ever really left, or if he was ever just outside. Sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night and think I hear the front door open, not loud, not forced, just gently, like someone using a key they've always had. It started like most good ideas do, with too little planning and too much caffeine. Ryan texted me out of nowhere. "You still want to disappear for a weekend?" I didn't even think twice. Work had been draining me. My apartment felt like a pressure cooker, and the idea of just driving somewhere, anywhere, felt like a relief. We'd been friends since high school. Not daily talkers, but the kind of people who could disappear for months and still pick up like nothing changed. He'd always been spontaneous, a bit chaotic, but loyal in his own way. He picked me up Friday morning, no real plan. Just snacks, a duffel bag, and his beat-up SUV. I figured we'd head north, he said. Some back roads, maybe hit a cabin or two. Disconnect. It sounded perfect. We drove for hours. Music up, windows cracked, the kind of silence that feels good between two people who know each other too well. He cracked jokes, made fun of my playlist. We reminisced about teachers we hated and girls we used to chase. The road was open. No deadlines, no maps, just us. Around early evening, I noticed we hadn't stopped once. No gas, no food. I asked if he knew where we were. "Somewhere nice," he said, grinning. "Just trust me." I did, at first. But by dusk, the paved roads started giving way to gravel, then dirt, and the GPS on my phone gave up entirely. No service. "You sure this is the right direction?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately, just squinted at the horizon like something was waiting for us out there. Then he said, "This is the good part, where the world gets quiet." I laughed, half serious. "You didn't say anything about camping in the woods." He smirked, keeping his eyes on the road. I didn't say we weren't. Something about his tone, too calm, too steady, made my stomach shift. The sun dipped below the tree line. The sky turned that strange purple blue that always feels colder than it should. And I realized I hadn't seen another car in over an hour. We didn't stop for the night. Ryan kept driving, his headlights cutting through the dark like we were chasing something, or maybe running from it. I lost track of how long we'd been on dirt roads. There were no signs, no lights, not even mile markers. Just endless trees, loose gravel, and the occasional sharp turn that made my stomach tighten. I asked again where we were going, and he just said, "You'll see." His tone was flat this time, no grin, no follow-up. He didn't even glance at me. I tried to laugh, pretending it was one of his usual pranks, something he'd joke about later. But around midnight, the SUV slowed and turned onto a barely visible path. It was narrow, overgrown, and looked like it hadn't been driven on in years. When the engine finally died, we were parked in front of a small wooden structure. It might have been a cabin. No lights, no porch, just the faint creak of cooling metal and the constant hum of insects around us. "I booked it last week," Ryan said, grabbing his bag. "Found it on a site I hadn't heard of before. Off the grid, just like you wanted." I didn't remember ever asking for something off the grid. I asked where the power was, and he pointed toward a dark shed beside the cabin, saying, "Generator. I'll set it up in the morning." The air was heavy. Not cold, just dense, like the trees were pressing in closer than they should. I stepped out of the car, stretched my legs, and followed him inside. The place was small. One room, 2 cots, a table. There was no fridge, no stove, not even a real bathroom. Just a jug of water on the floor and one boarded-up window. From the inside, I stood there for a second, trying to convince myself it was just part of the rustic experience. Ryan tossed his bag down and sat on one of the cots like everything was fine. "You're quiet," he said, unlacing his boots. I forced a smile and said I was tired. But I didn't sleep that night. The cot was stiff, and every sound felt exaggerated. The groan of wood, wind brushing the walls, branches tapping the roof. Ryan slept on his back, arms folded across his chest, perfectly still, like he hadn't moved in hours. I rolled over and checked my phone out of habit, even knowing there was no service. That's when I noticed my lock screen had changed. It wasn't my background anymore. It was a photo of the cabin, taken from outside. I didn't bring up the photo the next morning. I watched Ryan closely instead. He acted like everything was normal, even cheerful. Said he'd get the generator running, then offered to make coffee using a camp stove I hadn't seen in the car the day before. I asked, casually, how he got the photo of the cabin. "What photo?" I showed him the lock screen. He raised an eyebrow like it was the first time he'd seen it. "Weird," he said. "Probably something you clicked by accident." I knew I hadn't. The photo was taken at night, from an angle behind some trees. Someone had been out there, looking in. The day passed slowly. We didn't go anywhere. Ryan said the roads around us were muddy from recent rain and better left alone. He made it sound like we had all the time in the world. I spent most of the day walking around the area, pretending to enjoy the air while counting the trees and looking for tire tracks. There weren't any, not ours, not anyone's. It was like this place didn't exist on any map. There was no cell signal, no Wi-Fi, no landline, not even a power line overhead. I asked how he found the listing for the cabin, and he just said, "Online. Doesn't matter now, right?" That night, I pretended to sleep. I watched Ryan through half-closed eyes. He didn't lie down immediately. He sat on the cot, facing the door, for nearly an hour, not scrolling his phone, not reading, just sitting, as if he was waiting for something. When he finally got into bed, I closed my eyes for real, but sleep didn't come. Every sound made my muscles tense. At some point, I heard the floor creak near the table, and silence again. In the morning, the water jug was full. We hadn't filled it. I checked the door, still locked. Checked my backpack. It had been moved. Not stolen, just shifted, like someone had looked through it and put it back carefully. I started planning how to leave. I asked Ryan if he had any idea how far the nearest town was. He said, "Far, real far." No explanation, no concern. Then he added, "Why? You thinking of going somewhere?" I didn't answer, because I realized then I wasn't even sure how we got here. I hadn't paid attention to the last few turns. There was no cell tower, no marked road. It wasn't just that we were isolated. It was that Ryan wanted it this way. I woke up before sunrise and didn't bother pretending anymore. I grabbed my bag, moved quietly, didn't even put on my shoes. Ryan was still asleep, or at least looked like he was. Same position as before, flat on his back, eyes closed, breathing too steady. I didn't trust it. The door creaked louder than I expected when I opened it, but he didn't move. I stepped outside into the cold morning air and kept walking. I didn't have a plan, just one rule. Go straight, no turns. Just move until I found a road or a signal or something human. The trees felt endless. Hours passed. My legs ached. I kept checking my phone like an idiot, hoping for a single bar. Nothing. Then, through the trees, I saw the road. The SUV was there, parked where we left it. I froze. I'd walked in a straight line. I walked for 3 hours, and somehow I'd come back to the same place. I approached slowly, not sure what I expected. Maybe Ryan waiting behind the wheel, maybe nothing. But the driver's seat was empty. I opened the passenger door and saw a phone sitting on the seat. It was mine, except I had mine in my pocket. This one was unlocked. Playing a video, I tapped the screen. It was a recording. Me, standing outside the cabin from behind the trees. The same photo that had been on my lock screen. The video zoomed slightly, and in the corner of the frame, barely visible, was Ryan's voice. He whispered, "You shouldn't have tried to leave." I dropped the phone, ran back toward the trees. I don't know how long I ran, or in what direction. The woods seemed different now, thicker. The light didn't come through the same way. I started to hear things that weren't wind. Shifting leaves, soft movement in the brush, deliberate footsteps that stopped when I stopped. Eventually, I collapsed near a rock outcrop and stayed there until night fell. I haven't seen Ryan since. But sometimes, when I think I'm alone out here, I hear the generator start. And then I see the light, just faint, coming through the trees. And I know he's still nearby, waiting. If you've ever gone through something similar, or know someone who has, leave a comment below. Sometimes, just telling it is already a way to protect yourself. And if this video made you think twice before letting your guard down, then it was already worth it. Here, we don't tell stories to entertain. We tell them to warn. Because real fear doesn't jump scare you. It silences. It freezes. And if you want to keep hearing stories that might help keep you alive, subscribe. The next story could be yours.